Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. We're on location at the Ice House. As you can see, you can't see all of it. We're up on the top stage. There's a PYT stuff going on currently on that level, but we're here to talk with Mr. Andy Pollack about the upcoming and ongoing Cold Fusion comedy specials that are happening at the Ice House. And first, I just want to say hello again, and it's nice to see you. How everything's been going?
Good. Can't really complain about anything.
Wonderful.
Yeah. What kind of answer is that?
No, it's perfect. It's fun to be back in places like this. I know I keep referring to COVID a lot. It's almost like 4 years ago now, but it still feels fresh to be coming to events like this and to use spaces like this.
A lot of the acts that I book are very much like that. Mm-hmm. In comedy and performing arts, stand-up was kind of in a different spot because they could go virtual. That was just them by themselves. I tend to work with a lot of improvisers, and that's very team-based. Also a lot of variety acts and things where they need a crowd, and there were not a lot of crowds because of the pandemic.
Right. Well, tell us, let's take a step back. For people who maybe aren't familiar with you, your comedy pedigree does go back a while in the Lehigh Valley. You've been doing things, whether it's Arts Quest and other locations for a while. Can you kind of let people know who you are?
Yeah. So since 2010, I've done a lot of comedy in the Lehigh Valley. I started kind of with improv comedy and sketch. I did a lot of shows, have done a lot of shows for Arts Quest. I've taught some classes and workshops there. I've written and produced and performed some shows there. I've also we ran an improv comedy jam for several years at Godfrey Daniels. Then I started working on a comedy show at the Allentown Brew Works, and that kind of took us right to the pandemic.
And then
I ended up here somehow.
Which is, I've done at least a few podcasts in this space. I love it. The Ice House is really unique. So maybe before we go into talking about some of the different performers and stuff that's going to be going on here and people, how they can get involved, let's talk about the Ice House in general. What makes it a special venue, maybe in your opinion?
It's a very do-it-yourself and friendly environment. Pretty much, I get to make a show happen semi-regularly with, there's some basic rules and constraints and things, insurance and whatnot. But beyond that,
no fire stuff.
Right, outside, right? Don't burn the building down.
Basics.
Don't upset the city of Bethlehem, etc. Which I would never do those things anyway.
Of course.
But it's pretty much here you go, and it helps that I was already very interested in putting together a type of show that they were kind of already looking for. They are very interested in local and community-based arts and kind of getting as many people together over, artistic endeavors. And that's the kind of show I was already starting to do at the Brewworks.
Right.
And then the pandemic.
So you bring that over to this wonderful space where, if you turn the camera around and we were able to look down there right now, the Pennsylvania Youth Theater has a whole elaborate setup. We've done comedy shows here in the past. They have music here all the time, weddings, all that sort of stuff. This is a City of Bethlehem facility, but really it's community. If you need more information, if you want to get involved, you can do so as a resident, and that's what you're doing. So talk to us a little bit about the Cold Fusion comedy. When did it first come? Well, first of all, what is it? I know you described it as Muppets with people, so elaborate.
It's a comedy variety show with stand-up comics and improvisers, and we've had some sketch. We've had, I like a lot of different variety acts. We've had some magicians. We've had an acrobat. We've got, we had some flow arts people, so I've had some hoop dancers.
Okay.
At our next show, we've got someone doing the rope dart. I can't really think of any other way to describe it other than imagine Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
The thing that comes
get over
out.
here?
Yes, minus the like blood and killing people and stuff. It's swinging it around and that kind of thing in a.
On this stage?
Yes, it'll be on this stage. Similar to like now, if you go on like TikTok and other places, you'll see people who are, do with ribbons and hoops and all sorts of other flow arts and things.
And you had mentioned, just out of my curiosity, you talked about how nobody made it through the pandemic unscathed, but comedians, maybe the stand-up comedians, had a more of a direct kind of audience available virtually. Did you see maybe more people get interested in some of these other acts that you're talking about, like acrobatics? Just, there's a difference between a comedy stand-up, open mic type thing, and something where you might be doing stand-up and then the next guy is pulling a rabbit out of his hat.
Oh, definitely. It's been very, very difficult for me to find those acts. There isn't. So with comedy, I've been doing comedy for long enough.
Sure.
I know where they hang out, where they hide.
Where do they hang out?
Depends on who you're looking for, whether you may or may not want to go.
Right, yeah, sure.
Same with, stand-up and improv, like they're kind of often separate, but I really don't like that. I try to bring them together. But as far as these type of acts, there isn't really a water cooler. So I've had to do a lot of digging, finding old acts and things and kind of, nudging people like, hey, you used to do this, or, you used to perform with such and such. I have a picture of you at a parade from 8 years ago. Do you still do that? Come to find out that there's a lot of people who do those things hidden in plain sight.
Sure, or maybe they just didn't know there's a place to do.
That's the other part of it. So in areas like Reading, they have like a juggling, I don't want to say collective, but like they have a club. In other areas, there are magic stores and other local scenes, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. They're starting to come here now. I dabble at juggling. I'm not very good. I'm still working on learning clubs. But there's now in Easton, there's a juggling club that meets twice a week at Mystery Box Games on Northampton Street. There's at the Brewworks, there's Hoops and Hops where they do flow arts and things. So like some of those things are either coming back or starting because there are those people who are interested in that, and I'm trying to like maybe say, hey, what about I'm trying to pull them all together.
Well, it's funny. You're like, hey, you like watching this type of thing, and you can perform it. Let's put you in the same room together, right?
It's kind of, especially with those things, there's no real way to go from like, I like to do that in my backyard to I'm going to take this on the road and do it.
It is a little
make money.
I guess because like a stand-up comedian, if you started today, that career path seems pretty. Right, you play some comedy clubs, you're good, you play, and then maybe you get it big. But if you're doing the Mortal Kombat thing, maybe it's less clear on what you do with that.
Honestly, I couldn't even entirely tell you, other than it's the kind of thing where there isn't like an open mic for that. There isn't a talent. I try to make an environment, a show that's like above the level of a talent show or an open mic, but maybe because it's just me, not like, not I can't.
I could be wrong, but like an open mic, it's almost the Wild West where people are coming in you might not know, but with your show, it's just curated.
Yes.
Because you are either actively going after people or people are submitting through. And how exactly do they submit?
Well, a lot of it is word of mouth and networking and me digging around on the internet in not a creepy way, but like in a way like the way I described earlier. Right. Like, hey, you do circus stuff. Do you want to do
stuff,
that?
Lehigh Valley.
Do you want to? Well, I literally found someone who was posted in a post about juggling in the Lehigh Valley Reddit.
Sure.
And I said, hey, what do you do? And they're like, I do hoop dancing. And I'm like, have you ever considered being on doing it for people? And then we've had them a couple times up on the stage here. As far as submitting, I have a Google Forms submission form that is on our Facebook page.
Which we will link in the notes, but if you search Cold Fusion Comedy, you would be able to find that pretty quickly on Facebook.
Yes, it may be skewed because I know that Chrome and Google tends to go with what you Google and the algorithm.
But if you're in the Lehigh Valley and you search Cold Fusion Comedy, like when I searched earlier today, look at the events that all popped up.
Yes, we've made it.
Good job.
All right.
Which brings me, I guess, to my next question. You did say semi-regular. So we are kind of promoting this December event, which is on the 29th. And we'll talk about that. But then going into 2024, you can expect this, maybe not monthly, but you said 9 times in 2024?
We have we started out as bi-monthly. We've now, thanks to people coming out, I appreciate it. We've gotten some more shows for the year 2024. Including we had in July this past year, we had Cold Fusion Comedy Summer Meltdown, which was an entire day event that I put on, where we had 2 shows, an afternoon and an evening show. We had workshops earlier in the day. We have another one of a Saturday. This past year it was in July. This year it's going to be June 1st. I'm also trying to see if I can get a little bit of family element to it. My daughter keeps, asking and bugging, wanting to come to a comedy show. I want to let her do that, but I also can't exactly tell comics and other people, hey, clean it up for kids.
Yeah, and then they get weird too when they see a kid, and it's not their fault. It's not. I get it.
I don't
like, I have these dirty jokes, but I respect the children.
Right. I don't want to put that on them. I can't just book Glen Tickle, maybe I could, but
you could.
He is going to be
happy.
He's going to be at our show on the 29th also.
Right.
So. And then we've got this upcoming year as well. We're going to do a winter event. I was given a Saturday. So this year I have Friday the 29th of December. Next year I think the Saturday event is Saturday, December 28th.
So when you say DIY, you really mean DIU? Or like who else is helping you? Could you use some help? Is that something
1,000%.
Because I know you're building this community. It always helps to have some people to bounce stuff off of and pick up stuff.
I don't mean this any kind of way, but I know people say that and they mean that. Sometimes it can be very much a little red hen type of situation. I don't mean that in any kind of bad way, in the way that, honestly, it's work. We work our jobs and then you come do this. Frankly, it's easier and more fun and better to just go and perform at a show. I don't blame anyone for that. I also don't expect other people to put in the kind of time, work, effort as me. If I did, then I'd never have any.
I mean, that's a part of building a scene too. Hopefully you find those people who are like, wait a minute, I don't mind putting in X amount, and it's not going to be a thing. And I think that's where maybe when more people, you're already doing great, but the more people who know about that.
Yes. So it's not. So I do have some help. I have some people who have helped, with run the door and the lights and tech. I get people to host. I've worked with a couple partners who unfortunately weren't able to continue because of work. That's the thing. This is not life gets in. That's usually what happens, honestly. In the world of performing arts, it's flakiness is not what I mean. That has a kind of connotation to it. I mean more real life gets in the way.
These are people let's be honest. People are working their jobs.
Yeah.
And they are coming here whether to help or to perform.
Right.
And that's a bonus, really.
Right.
I would think, and all that.
But I am always looking for people to help as far as running lights, tech, shaking people's hands and making sure everyone's here, etc. I could really use help with marketing. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that
here we are. Yeah.
I appreciate.
And we've been talking about variety and mentioning some things. Are there any acts that recent acts that you have really enjoyed that maybe have been beyond the standard?
So there are two ladies who do like a lounge singer style act where they improvise the whole thing, but they also sing, complete with a guy who plays the piano, called the Mr. Sisters. So I've had them. They hosted the show a couple times. We had a guy named Matt Asiander who does the sear wheel. It's the big giant wheel that the person gets in and they spin around.
Did you go up here? Okay.
So we did it up here. We also did have a show down there in order for him to go. He wanted to go
really
upside
neat.
down in it. And I was like, well, now we have to go down there.
Right, I don't,
if you know
you can't
someone
see,
who
it's like a
does that,
10-foot drop here, probably.
if you know someone who does that, you have to make them do it for an audience. We've had an acrobat. I'm trying to get jugglers. The thing is that they can go to get performing gigs and get paid more money than I can afford.
Sure, I think that's part of this, the fun of this as
I'm
well.
building that as the community.
If you're coming here trying to, as a performer, make some money, that might not be the right approach. This is more of a, let's build something and get a groundswell.
Exactly, and some of that is just mixing and matching the different mindsets of the different performance types. Stand-ups have one expectation.
Of course.
Once you hit a certain level, there is that expectation of getting paid, but below that, they want to be on a stage. Improvisers, most of the models are, if you know of an improviser who is regularly getting paid, you're lying, just in general. But as far as like once you get to those variety acts and things, then they do parties, they do that kind of thing. It's kind of trying to find people who want to get to there, and can I help them do that? And also just kind of getting more people into those things. I don't know how they used to do it.
What I would think too is like, hey, if you want to, maybe you're dabbling in something and you want to hone it a little bit, and you need an audience, well, there you go. Where else? Like, I know that there's open mic nights, and I know there's places I can catch a local band and catch some stand-up comedy, but to see something that's a little bit out of the ordinary like that is local, is interesting. We went and saw Cirque du Soleil at Wind Creek Event Center, which was fantastic, but I don't know anywhere else I'm going to see that, especially locally. And it was some of that stuff that you're talking about.
Yes.
The circle, going around like that in a hula hoop, and it was wild.
Yes, I mean, that's the dream, right? One day, I guess I'll be able to book Cirque du Soleil.
You never, or you could have like the Ice House Day Soleil, or something to that effect.
I would a lot of things also where when it gets cold and stuff, they don't have anywhere to go and practice and things. A lot of these things take practice. So there's even other things that I just like in general, right? Like as a kid, I always loved watching jugglers and ventriloquists and puppets and puppetry. I know that the Mock Turtle Marionette used to do shows here. And
well, Doug, that's a big reason why, the Ice House is still, we want to make sure that we,
maybe I'll get him to perform at one of my shows.
And we're referring to Doug Roysden, who is a big benefactor, is that right? He helps support the Ice House. He's a guy who really, without him, I don't think it would be working as smoothly as.
He is the linchpin of the champion. Ice House Performing Arts Collaborative. That's his.
So thank you. Yeah, without him, we would not be here and we wouldn't be talking about this.
Correct.
So all this, but importantly, like sure, maybe people will come in 2024, but we want them to come on December 29th.
Correct.
Come out to this show. It's the last one of the year.
It's actually our second anniversary show.
All right.
Our first show was December 13th in 2021. So this will be, the second anniversary. It's a really packed show.
Tell us who do we got?
Well, it's hosted by Dice, who's a local comic, and he puts on a lot of his own different events and things. We've got stand-up by Lakisha Williams. I've got more stand-up by Glen Tickle, who we mentioned earlier. Improv-wise, I've got one of the former Arts Quest house teams. Ransom Note is performing. I've got, as I said earlier, a rope dartist. Maybe we're making up that word.
I might just come no offense, Glenn. I'm here for the rope dartist. But seriously, that's interesting.
Yeah, so
I don't know what to expect.
she used to do it it was Crufelli Circus. They were up in like Jim Thorpe and the Heighton area, and they kind of, I think just over time, went separate ways.
Sure. As circuses and Jim Thorpe do.
Right. I've also found a lot of people tend to work with fire or aerials, and those are like the two things that it's like,
even if you're outside, it's like if you're putting this on your own volition, you know what I mean? And you're putting the time and effort into it. If you can just stay away from fire, at least
that's all.
Just then everybody, ice, fine.
Yep, that's where cold fusion comedy comes from. Bring it all together, ice. Yep, it's all.
Fire
fumed.
not required.
No, thank you. Like Frankenstein's monster, fire bad. So we have Emerald, who she's a circus performer in the Aerial Inferno Circus. She does hoops and acrobatics, and normally she does aerial work. She also, I know, is able to shoot an arrow with her feet. Unfortunately, she's not able to do it at our show, but I guess she'll have to come back at some point to do that.
And she stubbed her toe or something.
I think it has more to do with, hey, I don't shoot arrows with my feet, so I'm not going to pretend to tell someone how to do it or whether they can or can't.
Good point.
We have Santa is coming.
Doesn't he deserve a break at that time? But hey, it's fine.
So don't tell anyone, but it's a guy whose day job during that time he is a Santa.
Love it.
He also dabbles in comedy and magic, so he is going to come and do some things like that. Yep.
Awesome.
We've got So really, this is all just an excuse for me to have somewhere to perform. Everyone else is just the.
Oh wait, you're performing as well. Okay.
So, yes. That's really, it's just all about me. I mean, everything is
putting it all together.
No, I don't usually put my stuff on, yes, I do it, yes, I joke.
I would. It makes sense though, right?
But this is not about me.
I know, but you're just you're a piece of it.
Yes.
And I think that's, as long as if you're just come out to Cold Fusion Comedy just to see Andy, then it's a little different.
Right, it's Andy and the Pollacks. That's not, that's never really been about that. I like putting on a show for people to see these things.
Sure.
And being a part of comedy and this type of stuff in really everywhere, it's a very, it can often be a very narrow avenue. Mm-hmm. There tend to be the most of cis, white, heterosexual male performers in a lot of these disciplines. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of opportunities for people, that fit that criteria. Right. And that to me is not as interesting as a large, diverse group of voices and opinions and comedy, right? Because all of these things come from what you love, what you know, what it is about you that you want to share with other people. I know what I already know. I want to know what that person over there.
And what I love about that is that these are the people who live in our community, mm-hmm. who maybe you don't know that they can shoot bow and arrow with their feet. And it's funny, but it's also we get to kind of share these things with each other too. That is outside of that normal, I'm in an open mic night playing my acoustic guitar. It's other talents.
I kind of look at it as I try to make a safe space for everyone. Where comedy is not always, unfortunately, mm-hmm. as you turn on Netflix and the
I think we can all understand and relate.
Yeah. So my goal is to be the opposite of that. Okay. I don't necessarily mean bring your small children. I don't mean that so much as
noted.
That no hate. You are punching up rather than punching down.
Fair enough. And then to that point for the December, did we talk about a time? What time is this happening?
Sorry, yes.
December 29th?
So it is at 8 p.m. The doors open at 7:30. Tickets are available at the door. We're working on biggering to be able to, go on Eventbrite.
Sure.
Come on out and help us, and we'll get there. As I said, to George earlier, the goal is to make it so that we are not able to perform in this space anymore because we get so many of you to come out and see these things and help and be a part of it. There's that thing that you can do. Maybe you want to do it for a bunch of people.
I wish I had what do you have? Like, can you do the water bottle thing or anything?
I can't.
I don't know if I have any obscure.
So, I don't want to, I try not to make.
No, I'm curious.
So it's not a talent show. I kind of
okay, I know. But
I don't mean it. So, I can.
That's a good distinction, though. It isn't just hey, I'm really good at beer pong.
Right. It's more of a, comedy or comedy adjacent is what I've been calling it. I'm nothing against bands, but they have a lot of places to go and perform. They've got to have a joke or two in there and to come on to. But
you could be I guess that kind of segues into people thinking about this. What if they are more like a comedy bandy type, or like a singer songwriter person who incorporates that into their set?
We had George Harab in one of our shows like that. We think of, I need to talk with Dave Fry and other local people who, do a lot of that sillier.
You have Nate Marks, do you know him?
Yes.
I think he's
Nate Marks
hilarious.
With the banjo. I haven't had him on one of these
I saw him
yet.
play an oscillating fan once at an open mic.
Oh, that's great.
He had a fan, I don't even describe it really, but he played it and it sounded good. It was really interesting.
I had him on the brouhaha that I used to run at Allentown Brew Works. I haven't had him here yet though, but he's on my list.
But it's just those are the types of people that
there's a lot of that interesting stuff, and I think when people think improv, they think hey, we're going to be wacky, and when they think of stand-up, they think of stand-up is kind of stand-up.
Sure.
But I want them to think of more I want shadow puppet stuff, and I want they did with the Touchstone recently. They did the I know they made the big giant owl thing.
When I mentioned if I'm good at something dumb, the difference between that and that is kind of 10,000 hours of right.
Yes, and there's spaces
developing
in between.
That skill.
It's kind of. I kind of more of a show rather than an open. Well, an open mic is kind of here's a bunch of jokes.
Right.
What sticks? What you're shopping your material.
This is a curated.
Yeah, this is
with intent.
Yes, with intent, and it doesn't even need to be something that I specifically like. Or that I necessarily find funny, so much as that I understand why others would. I'm not ideally I find everyone funny, but you don't
like every genre of music. You can't.
Right, exactly. But you would still book genres that are,
I understand why other people like it. It's like country.
For me, the watchword is not necessarily do I find it funny or do I like it. It's more will people like it, and is there anything hate-based around it?
Sure.
And those are my criteria for that.
And I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that you're taking the time to do that as well. Because I know they're coming to a show that they already know they don't have to worry about.
That's also part of. Sometimes that makes it more difficult to book with things.
Yeah.
Much like anything like that. And
it's a weird time. Man.
It really is. It really is. And we're a big-ish area, but we're not Philly or New York where there's anyway, so our show. Back to the thing that we're talking
December
about.
29th,
December 29th, 8
The
p.m.
Ice House, which is on the Sand Island in Bethlehem.
56 River Street, $10. Doors open at 7:30. Show starts at 8. It's going to be a great time. Music, comedy. Well, I said music.
Music, comedy, fun. We talked about
I make a playlist.
Rope darts, I'm in. No, and it's fun. And I'm glad that we got a chance to talk because I really genuinely love this space. And for somebody who hasn't been to any performance at the Ice House, if this is going to be your first one, great. But I think you should come out and experience it. It's really neat. It's a unique space, and I'm looking forward to catching the show. So.
Well, thank you for having me, George.
And again,
I appreciate it.
Everybody, is the best thing to do, like we're gonna have stuff in the show notes, but if you're listening, to search?
Search for Cold Fusion Comedy on, Google it. We have a Facebook page that has information with a link to a Google form for submitting an act. You can also email coldfusioncomedy@gmail.com. Also, we're on YouTube. I've put about 50 or so of our performances up there. I also like that it's the kind of thing, you do a show here, now you've got something for your reel. You've got...
Well, so you're recording them?
I record and put up everyone who gives permission to,
Well, that's a bit, I mean, that's a nice little bonus, I would think, too, for somebody who performs.
In what I don't have money, I have in, I guess, time. So, you're performing for me. I believe artists should get something. This is not just a free thing. I can't afford money so much, but I can do those things.
Listen, I hope that this continues to grow, and I hope that more people can. Well, and too, like if there are some people there who might have an interest in doing this and get in touch with you and just say, hey, what do you need? Or I have some ideas, or just come out and experience it and go from there and let's have a good time. But I think it's great that we have an opportunity like this in Bethlehem, fun stuff that isn't the norm. There are more opportunities than just your basic stuff, which doesn't mean those aren't great.
Right.
But there's a lot of open mics, there's a lot of places to see some of the traditional entertainment. So it's great that you're doing this here.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. It's great what you're doing as well.
Well, thank you. We try to, it's fun to be able to pop out here and do stuff like this. So I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm very fortunate, and it's wonderful. So again, December 29th, all those links are in the show notes, or just search Cold Fusion Comedy, December 29th at 8 p.m. at the Ice House on River Road in Bethlehem.
Yep.
We'll catch you there.
We'll see you there.